What's the haps, alley cats? Welcome to Hat Hole Home Video. Tonight, on my quest for video store gold, I'm watching Ravenhawk from 1996. Will it be trash? Will it be treasure? Will it be trashy treasure? That's my favorite. Only one way to find out. Let's go! Rich white men are up to evil shenanigans. They want to build a factory on a native reservation, but one tribal leader is standing in their way. They murder the tribal leader and his wife, and frame their sweet little daughter for the crimes. 12 years later, that little girl is all grown up and still in prison. But while being transported to a different prison, she escapes, Harrison Ford in The Fugitive style. She steals a horse and immediately sets out on a quest to kill the men who killed her parents. She fights and kills a probably definitely sex criminal scuba instructor. It's complicated. Technically the boat kills him, but you get it. She kills a helpless bridge worker, no fighting, she just drops him to his death. And by the way, Raya looks disturbingly like Samurai Cop in this scene. Now we got a native affairs detective on the case. He's the only good cop in the whole movie. The rest are racist and corrupt, and boy, is he dreamy. The racist cops almost catch Raya, but she fights them off and gets away. We find out that the factory the rich dudes built on the reservation is some kind of secret toxic waste dumping ground. White guys, I tell ya. Dreamy detective is getting closer to the truth. Rich white guys hire a super team of bounty hunters to hunt Raya down and take care of her. We get a scene where Raya activates her Ravenhawk beast mode, and we get some very tasteful side boob. She drops those bounty hunters one by one. Now it's time to fight the second in command bad guy. It starts as a horse versus motorcycle chase and ends in a good old-fashioned rock climbing shootout. You'll be surprised to find out that Raya wins. Finally, Raya fights the big boss, but just as she's about to kill him, the dreamy detective shows up. He stops her from killing the big boss, but then he kills the big boss himself and makes it look like a suicide. I don't understand why. Raya disappears. The end. Well, here we are, we've arrived on the other side of Ravenhawk, and although only 89 minutes have passed, I feel about 5 years older. So let's go through my pros and cons. As you can guess, the cons kind of outweighed the pros for me personally. But, first of all, for pros, the lead actress, who, of course, name I did not look up or write down, because why would I be a professional? But that lead actress did have, in my opinion, a strong physical on-screen charisma. The character is mostly a hero of few words. She doesn't get to do a ton of acting in the movie, here and there, and the emoting, the verbal acting is all perfectly adequate. It didn't bother me, but just her physical presence alone I thought was done very well. I almost would have probably preferred it had they built the movie around the idea that she was a silent hero, that she didn't talk, because really, aside from a few scenes of exposition, that's pretty much how she played everything. But I did like her quite a bit, and she is not tough on the eyes. Let me just say that. Also, the rock climbing shootout scene towards the end of the movie was a genuinely solid action scene. It felt like it could have been out of a blockbuster 90s action movie. It was incredibly well shot, much better shot than the rest of the movie. All of a sudden, like for 4 minutes, all of a sudden it felt like they were spending money. And that scene was a ton of fun to watch. I tip my cap to that scene. And I do have to say that the revenge story, there's a lot of action movies and exploitation movies that are revenge-driven, revenge movies. Although this is still a you killed my parents and now I'm coming to kill you movie, and that's a very common kind of revenge movie. I liked that it was from the perspective of a Native American who, it wasn't just that her parents were murdered by these guys, it's that her parents were murdered because they were standing in the way of this company exploiting loopholes in U.S. law, which basically say that native reservations are outside the jurisdiction of certain regulations, certain laws, and because of that, companies will build their companies, build factories on Indian land and promise, you know, these tribes the money that's gonna come in, all this good stuff, but then really they're just there to get around regulations, to get around the law, and they really just end up in the long term abusing the land and abusing these tribes. And I thought that it was actually an interesting real life story that is common to frame your revenge story around, so that it wasn't just I'm going after these guys 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was also kind of doling out the kind of the conspiracy of what these guys were doing on the land, what this factory really is. It was unique. I can't say like, oh, it was great and oh, it was amazing, but it was interesting because it was something that I hadn't seen in really any other revenge movie of the type. So that is our list of pros, and now we get to talk about our cons. And you'll notice the pros were pretty specific things. The cons are a little more broad, unfortunately. The pros were like precision strikes, and the cons were just carpet bombs as far as the eye could see. So, the biggest crime of Ravenhawk, top of my list, in caps. I guess if you're writing it, there's no caps, so would you say in capitals? Oh my god, I just realized that caps on the keyboard means capital. Like capital letter. I am smart! Okay. So in all capital letters, boring. Boring is the best word to describe Ravenhawk overall. There are glimmers of things that I like, and in a lot of ways that kind of hurts the movie more when you are rooting for a movie to be better than it is, and you are not being engaged by the movie, but you're sort of just, there's that little connection because you want the movie to be good. Because like you feel like you get these little glimmers of like, okay, like, you know, I can work with this week, you know, like this movie could still pull something off here, and it just never does. Everything is boring. Every scene is boring, besides the rock climbing shootout. That's a scene I will always go back to and point at and say, that was a lot of fun to watch. But really just the way exposition is doled out is very slow and very boring and very disengaged. There's a lot of strange editing because you can tell some of the actors that they got that were slightly bigger names that they, you know, wanted to put people who you would know in the movie to try to sell it. You could tell those people weren't necessarily on set on the same day, and they were trying to splice together scenes with people who never actually interacted, and it comes across very clunky. There was the bridge scene. To have a scene that you shot for real with your characters on this canyon bridge. How many movies, even like blockbuster Hollywood action movies, have been able to film on a bridge like that? I can't really think of too many. So the fact that you got to really film on that bridge is really neat. The fact that your lead actress is a stunt woman and is doing all of her own stunts is really neat. But then that scene doesn't go anywhere. She just literally drops the guy after she talks to him for a second. I feel like a better movie would have had that guy turn the tables on her. She would feel too confident. She would be in a position where she's like, I've got you. And she lets her guard down for a second, and he gets the drop on her. Maybe they're both dangling for a second, and then she, kind of regains control of the situation and drops him. That's what a movie should do. And I don't know if it was lack of imagination, if it was that they didn't want the lead character to be vulnerable in that way. I don't know if it was a money issue and just they couldn't film it that way. But that scene really sums up the lost potential of Ravenhawk. There's a lot of times in this movie where the scene starts and I think, okay, this is going to be good. And then just sort of nothing happens. The exception being the rock climbing shootout. That was a scene, and it happens so late in the movie that I thought it was just going to be another dud, and it actually paid off in a fun way and was a really engaging scene. The other thing I wanted to bring up too, really the last thing that I haven't talked about, all my cons turned into one big con. But one thing I did want to bring up is that the plot, I thought, was, although I like the revenge plot, I like the unique angle, the one thing that I didn't like about it was how there are ways, like a revenge plot is a simple plot. And it doesn't need to get complicated. But the one thing that I thought was too simple, the one thing that I thought could have used a little bit of explaining was how she knows who everyone who was there that night is in the first place, because 12 years ago she's a little girl, a bunch of white dudes burst into her house, kill her parents, and somehow she knows who they all are, and in like a half day tracks all of them down. And that to me was, it's not even, here's the thing. It's not that I can't get on board with that, it's that, or that it needs an overly complicated explanation. All I would have needed was a little scene of her going into like the local library and pulling out some archived newspapers, and we just saw a couple little shots of her with names under pictures, because of course these are all the guys who built this factory. So obviously there would be, in like local newspapers, there would be the, like the groundbreaking ceremony would have been in the local newspapers, things like that, like businessmen bringing, good, economic growth to the area. There would be stories like that in the local newspaper, just to see her like get a couple names, recognize a couple faces in the newspapers. That's all I would have needed, and I wouldn't have given it a second thought, and it wouldn't have bothered me at all. But because it never addressed it, it kept kind of eating at the back of my brain for the whole movie. And that is a minus. So, we have arrived. I don't know why I did this. I'm like a gym coach. All right, no hot dogging out there. But what was I saying? Yes. On a scale from gold to turd, where does Ravenhawk lie? My brain went away for a second. Well, it ain't gold. I'll be straight up with you there. Is it silver? I don't think so. Probably not. Turd. Bronze. Here we sit. Bronze or turd? I think if I was going to be dispassionate, I probably would say, purely based on entertainment, I would dispassionately say turd. But I am not dispassionate when it comes to this particular review. I wanted the movie to be better, that's for sure. It is filled with mediocrity. It is filled with missed opportunities, but based on a strong lead character, somebody who does command, in my opinion, command is probably a strong word, but somebody who does have that on-screen charisma. The rock climbing shootout scene, man, I keep bringing that up, but it was a really fun scene. And maybe the fact that that scene comes towards the end of the movie helps it in my brain, because it had happened when I basically had given up on the movie being entertaining. So that it might not be fair for me to be praising that scene so much. It's probably just a good action scene. But I think I'm going to say bronze. This movie, Ravenhawk, from what, 96? Earns a bronze medal. It's certified bronze here at Hat Hole Home Video. I can't say that this movie is without entertainment value. That is what a turd is. A turd is a movie that is devoid of entertainment value. I didn't hate this movie. I wanted to like it. I can't say I liked it, but I can say I wanted to like it, and there are good things to say about it. So bronze it is. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to please, for the love of Pete, follow me on Twitter, because we have some live streaming events coming up on the channel down the road, and the only way I can really keep people up to date on things in short notice is on Twitter. So definitely swing over there at Hat Hole. If it didn't pop up, maybe it popped up. Nah, you know what? It didn't pop up. I'm not going to put it. But otherwise, thank you everybody so much for watching. I will catch all you alley cats on the flip side. Bye-bye.